Hey there, welcome back to Blacklist Universe. This is Mike. I am doing something a little bit different today. I am redoing Goku Westernized style. That isn't to say I'm putting him in a Western. That is to say I'm taking the Goku character and I'm giving him more of a American comic book style. So here we go. Kind of the thing that dawned on me is how anime, manga is all derived actually from American art forms. The comic book is an original American art form, and it was transplanted over to Japan and made into a very popular art form that never had sort of the problems we had here with, what is it, the house? I don't know if it's the House on American Act. Whatever. You remember, like, back in the 50s, some dude wrote a book about corrupting our youth and sort of created these guardrails for comic books that turned them away from being a media that pretty much all Americans consumed. There were Western comics, there were romance comics, there were comics about every subject, just like you'd see in pulp fiction or, whatever, the bookstore. And then when this thing happened in the 50s, Congress made the comic book companies abide by certain restrictions, and they came up with the Comics Code Authority, and the Comics Code Authority came in and said what you could and could not put in comics, because ultimately they were trying to say that comics were aimed at children. Well, I hate to tell you, but war and romance comics were not aimed at children. Anyways, that's beside the point. What happened is that as Japanese comics were copying the format, the Japanese never had that issue. Neither did the Europeans. It was just America. We had this issue, and then comics became primarily a format for children, a media for children's entertainment, which was kind of weird. So in Japan, comics continued to flourish, and they continued to flourish to this day, and they took on their own sort of... Actually, it's only really been the last few decades that comics really took on... or manga, as it is. Manga is just the Japanese name for comics, for those of you who don't know. But manga took on sort of its own style. Like now people say, oh, that's like anime style, manga style. Well, there has become sort of a uniformity to it, right? And then it got popular even back here in the West. And then you had artists like Adam Warren, like Joe Madureira, I could name a few others, who sort of started adopting manga style into American comics. And I thought it was all just, I don't know, kind of ironic that you had an American art form that became Japaneseized. I don't know if that's the word. And then you had the Japanese stylization of the American art form coming back and influencing the original American art form itself. And I don't know. To me, I thought, what would be a fun thing to try is taking it back, right? Taking the Japanese, the manga, the anime, and converting it back to what the American stylistic sense would have been, say, if it was in that time. I think Dragon Ball goes back to the 80s, if I recall, the original Dragon Ball. And so originally in this, you can see I'm doing somewhat of a more modern take here in the initial design up that I'm working up. I'm trying to maintain not the entirety of the silhouette, but the basic silhouette and the basic color dynamics. I know you can't tell in the colors, but I'm trying to give, how he's got the gi, but the gi creates a V. So I'm trying to give him a comic book superhero, because if you look at all of these characters, the Japanese, it's all basically superheroes, but with a more Japanese ninja martial arts sort of affectation to it. Well, I was trying to strip that down, bring it back to sort of a mid 80s design, influenced more like, what I was reading in the mid 80s, which is like X-Men and Thor and all that good stuff. So I removed the crazy anime hair, the kind of hair that just never looks real. And I gave him the big, I gave him wild hair. That's what I gave him. I gave him wild hair because sort of the motif is like these guys have this wild hair, but they have anime hair, and it's all, you know what? It's all derived from Astro Boy, which is derived from Mickey Mouse. You have, you know what? It's all comes from somewhere, right? The big eyes, they come from Disney. Anyways, so so I went back in here, and this is what I was trying to do. I was trying to give it back the American stylization, and the initial run I was doing, it was a little too modern, so I wanted to draw it back and make it more like 80s sensibilities. So sort of the Nightcrawler, Colossus, the X-Men flared out, shoulder pointy things. I don't even know what you call them. But it's funny because this actually reminds me of the old samurai. If you ever watch old samurai movies like from the 70s and 80s and whatnot, the samurai wear these kimonos that do stick out very prominently over their shoulders. And maybe that's where they got the idea for Nightcrawler and Colossus and whatnot. I have no idea, but it just reminded me, not even as I was drawing it, just right now looking at it, I'm like, wow, that really does remind me of the old samurai stuff. But I'm deriving it from the X-Men from that era and maintaining the color design of the original thing. Now, I'm sorry about the low quality of the video here because my iPad actually stopped the live recording I was doing for some weird reason in the middle of it, and so I had to use the truncated version for like a few minutes of this video. So stick with me. It does get back to high resolution in a little bit here because I did, when I realized that, obviously I went back and I started the live recording again. And so again, you notice I stuck with the bodysuit motif of the American superhero, right? And again, Goku, all these guys, they're just superheroes. It doesn't matter if they're aliens or humans or whatever. They are all just superheroes with a Japanese twist. And so I'm untwisting that. I'm keeping his logo. Instead of the giant hair, I gave the giant, you know, how he has the power up, right? The when he goes Super Saiyan, his hair and his body, it does the glow. I was like, well, instead of his hair being all spiky, how about if I give him a power signature? Because that's kind of the big thing in American comics, right? Is the power signature. It's like everybody has their own sort of unique, well, they're not all unique, but they all have their own power signature, and that's how you can recognize one power activating from another in the American comics motif. And so that's what I sort of did with what would have been his giant spiky hair. I gave him sort of a giant spiky head power signature that's him powering up, and that's him doing his, you know, when he's going to use his powers. And then I did go back in later. I'll show you'll see it when I'm in the coloring stages. Once again, I go back in with the tint tone hue thing. I did it in gray here because I was drawing this on Drawn and Quartered, which is our weekly live drawing stream. Me and a few professional friends get together every week and we draw the topic du jour. This week we did Westernizing Dragon Ball. I hope some of you got to watch that before I put it into members only mode. If you want to check those out, please do become a member, or you can check them out on my other channel. I think the link is in the description. Oh, by the way, if you are here live and watching this and you enjoy this content, I know I haven't been doing a whole lot of it lately because I've been crunching and doing some extra work for hire to try to scrape up money to pay for my daughter's wedding. So I have not been doing weekly, or I have not been doing the daily videos that I would like to be doing on this channel. So if you want to make sure you catch the next video when it comes out, please do hit that subscribe button, like and share too, and of course, tell me what you think in the comment section below. Let me know if you like this westernizing of anime characters or manga characters, because there's so much out there, and it's fun to sort of reimagine these characters where I'm not taking crappy, poorly designed stuff and trying to improve it. I'm just trying to take it in a different direction. Not like westernizing like they did with Dragon Ball Evolution, which was like you're taking the original, and then you're just making everybody American. That's not the idea, right? The idea is not to just make everybody American. The idea is to stylistically revert or convert these characters into something you'd see more likely and more readily in an American comic book of the era, in this case of the era, right? Very much an 80s, early 90s sort of design motif. Maybe less early 90s, more mid 80s, I would think. Something that, because I'm 53 years old, so that was sort of the era that I grew up reading comic books in. You know, John Byrne X-Men, Paul Smith X-Men, you know, Frank Miller on Daredevil, Walt Simonson on Thor. It really was the golden age of comic books as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here. And of course, the tint tone hue, you guys all know the tint tone hue in my coloring sense here. I'm just doing the 3 tones of highlight, shadow, and base hue and base color. For those of you who don't know what hue means, Larry. Sorry, that was a topic. That was an issue on Drawing Recorded. And so it gives everything shape and form. And here I'm doing a central coarse shadow lighting on the face because I want that power signature to be what is lighting him up on the head. And then the rest of him is sort of your base front shadow. Although I did sort of a coarse shadow on his arms too. I just noticed that. Yeah, so here I'm going in, and again, I'm trying to maintain the basic colors. You can see, right, that from the color scheme, you can see it's like it maintains the entire color scheme of Goku. It just reformulates into more of the, you know, the form-fitting American comic book style costume. So it's not him running around in a gi, which, you know, is his costume in the manga and in the anime, but it is him. I don't know. I feel like it's funny. Somebody, when I was on this, they said, "Oh my gosh, that looks like Nuclear Man from the Superman movie," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it kind of does." But then I went after the fact and I compared it to Nuclear Man. I'm like, well, it reminds me of Nuclear Man from the. If you've not seen Superman 3, I mean, I don't recommend it. It's the worst of the original Christopher Reeve Superman movies, but it does have a little bit of a reminiscent quality to the Nuclear Man. Although maybe it's like if Nuclear Man became an X-Man or something like that. I don't know. And then I had a little bit of fun here using my flame brush and my just some of the cooler brushes, my light pen that you can find on Procreate. This is what I'm using. A lot of people ask me, what are you using? I'm using Procreate. It's on the iPad. And these light pen brushes are super cool. Back in the day, if I had to do this in Photoshop, it would have taken me forever because I would have to use these different brushes. I have to create blur elements. I'd have to do all of this different stuff. And Procreate, I'm not here to sell you Procreate or iPads, but Procreate has these brushes that allow you to do this stuff and create these great effects really fast, and they end up being really cool. And I think that this turning it from the illustrated, you know, the hand-drawn signature to this, well, let's Procreate exclusive signature. I don't know what you'd call it. You know, being able to do it with the special brush, I think that's cool. And then I went in with a wave texture for the blue power element that Goku has. And then I did the wave texture, and then I went in with my light brush, and I highlighted some of those out to give it that sort of electric charging feel that he has. Which, oh my gosh, I think the power signatures is what ended up making him like really stand out and pop and stuff. And it's like, man, I don't know, I think it'd be cool to have this character in a Western comic book. Man, if the owners of Dragon Ball want a westernized version of Dragon Ball, that would be cool. Actually, I looking at the final product. I don't like to brag about my own stuff. I'm not bragging. To me visually, this actually looks like a cool character that would be fun to draw in a regular comic book over, you know, a span of time. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Is this a good idea for a series of videos? Do you have suggestions for a series of videos? I like to do videos in series so that I can build along and not just, do a one-off. Like the Lara Croft video. That was a great video. It did great for the channel, but it's really just a one-off. I can't do a series of Lara Croft videos, you know what I mean? So if you have ideas for series or ideas, if you like the Westernizing anime or the Westernizing manga format, let me know in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, as I said, subscribe. And please check us out on Wednesday nights live at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Every week we do the Drawn and Quartered show. You can catch us live. You can ask questions, be a part of the community. Also, join the Discord. The Discord link is in the description below. Thank you all for being here and watching this, and hopefully I'll see you all on the next video.